On September 17, 1944, 9:47 a.m. in Arnhem, a British paratrooper landed, caught fire from his flak-ignited parachute, screamed, and was rescued by comrades who extinguished the flames and pulled him into a ditch. The sky around them was filled with parachutes and anti-aircraft fire. Planes exploded mid-air and bodies fell. A C-47 transport, hit by flak, disintegrated into a fireball 400 feet above a Dutch field, scattering men and equipment over 3 kilometers. This marked the disastrous start of Operation Market Garden. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch our next video. Join us to explore more incredible historical stories and inspiring moments. Join our global history community. These stories deserve remembrance. Over the next 9 days, 10,000 British soldiers will become casualties for a bridge they never secured. Concurrently, 200 miles south, an American general with limited fuel and low priority will capture 12 fortified cities, cross 3 rivers, take 45,000 prisoners, and reach Germany's doorstep. The stark contrast between these two commanders and their war philosophies will spark a major confrontation in Allied command history. Winston Churchill, having endured Gallipoli, the Blitz, and years of tough decisions, will view the figures and experience a rare, devastating fury. His words to Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery will resonate in military academies for 80 years. But first, understand Private James Wilcox, a 22-year-old soldier from Sheffield, who was a welder's apprentice before the war. He repaired boilers and pipe joints in a locomotive parts factory. With calloused hands and a thick accent, his commanding officer once rated him merely adequate, not exceptional. On September 17, 1944, at 9 a.m., James Wilcox parachuted from a Dakota equipped with a Sten gun, 3 days' rations, and a failing radio battery, landing 2 miles from his target. By noon, he joined a small group from the 2nd Parachute Battalion, tasked with a critical mission: secure and hold the Arnhem Road Bridge until ground forces arrived. They only needed to hold for 2 days. Then 30th Corps tanks would thunder up the highway from the south and cross the bridge, push into Germany, ending the war by Christmas. This was Field Marshal Montgomery's plan, promise, and dream sold to Eisenhower, Churchill, and the entire Allied command. James Wilcox knew none of this. He only knew his section sergeant died before hitting the ground, from machine gun fire hitting his parachute. He knew the radio was dead, and the streets ahead were not the empty, liberated avenues intelligence briefings had promised. Instead, they were full of German veterans, not demoralized stragglers or exhausted, retreating conscripts. These were battle-hardened SS veterans in armored vehicles who, per all intelligence given to Montgomery, should not have been near Arnhem in the week before the operation. Montgomery knew and ignored this. Dutch resistance fighters had reported German armor concentrating near Arnhem. Major Brian Urquhart, a British intelligence officer, personally presented aerial reconnaissance photos showing Tiger tanks in the woods surrounding the drop zones. He pleaded for the operation's delay or modification. Montgomery's staff removed him and sent him on medical leave, filing away the photographs. Despite inconclusive warnings, at 9:47 a.m. on September 17, 1944, 10,000 British paratroopers landed directly into the firepower of the 9th and 10th SS Panzer Divisions. James Wilcox, with about 700 men from Lieutenant Colonel John Frost's 2nd Parachute Battalion, arrived at Arnhem Bridge, facing 2 of Germany's most seasoned armored units. Intended as the vanguard of a larger force, with the division meant to follow, secure the town, and form a perimeter, the remaining troops instead became trapped in Oosterbeek's drop zones and streets, battling for survival, unable to reach the bridge. Frost's 700 men defended Arnhem Bridge's northern end in isolation, encircled, isolated, lacking supplies, reinforcements, and radio communication with command. 30 Corps' tanks, expected in 48 hours, were stalled 60 miles south on one road, advancing at 3 miles per hour against fierce German opposition. For 9 days they endured, encircled by SS Panzer divisions, their ammunition dwindling, tending to wounded in basements without morphine, and scavenging food from deserted Dutch homes. Military historians would later describe this 9-day struggle as some of the European war's most brutal urban fighting. Private James Wilcox sustained a wound on day 6 when mortar shrapnel pierced his left forearm. A medic applied a bandage, yet Wilcox continued fighting on day 7. He wielded a German Schmeisser, salvaged from a street casualty, as his Sten rifle was irreparably jammed. On day 8, he and 4 comrades defended a corner building for 11 hours against continuous infantry attacks, subsisting on 3 water bottles and a tin of biscuits discovered in a kitchen cabinet. The evacuation order arrived on the night of September 25th. Cross the Rhine and retreat. The remnants of the 1st Airborne Division were to pull back under darkness. They traversed the river by wading, swimming, using boats, inflatable rafts, or clinging to logs, anything to cross 200 meters of frigid, dark water. German troops on the opposite bank raked the water's surface with machine gun fire. Of the 10,000 men who parachuted into Arnhem, only 2,000 returned. James Wilcox was among them. He traversed the Rhine in a rubber dinghy alongside 4 others. With his injured arm bound in a blood-soaked dressing, he paddled one-handed through the dark, illuminated by German tracers. Reaching the south bank, he collapsed into the mud, remaining there for 20 minutes until discovered. He and his battalion had performed flawlessly, fighting with a ferocity and resolve that astonished even their German adversaries. General Wilhelm Bittrich, commander of the SS Panzer Corps at Arnhem, later stated in captured testimony that he had never encountered soldiers who displayed such exceptional bravery against insurmountable odds. The Arnhem failure was not attributable to the soldiers. The soldiers were never to blame. Meanwhile, 200 miles south of Arnhem, during the identical 9-day period from September 17th to 25th, 1944, a vastly different narrative was emerging, and in London, it garnered little attention, as focus remained on Montgomery's major operation in Holland. General George S. Patton, Jr., commanding the United States Third Army, is enraged, a state he has maintained for weeks. The cause is both straightforward and infuriating. His army, which had been rapidly advancing through German-occupied France at a speed that left German commanders bewildered and struggling, has been intentionally decelerated, not by enemy opposition, topography, or climate, but by a lack of gasoline, due to a high-level Allied command decision to redirect fuel truck deliveries and all available logistical assets northward to Field Marshal Montgomery's 21st Army Group in support of Operation Market Garden. Patton's daily supply allocation is 700 tons. Montgomery, however, receives 1,400 tons daily. Every truck intended for Patton in the south is instead heading north to Monty. Patton has voiced his grievances about this for weeks, using exceptionally vivid language, even for him. He informed his staff he could conclude the war within 30 days. He told his superior, Omar Bradley, that depriving his army of fuel for Montgomery's single thrust was a grave mistake. He considered it the Allies' greatest strategic error since D-Day. His diary bluntly stated he was politically hindered while Montgomery received all requests but achieved nothing. On September 17th, as British paratroopers landed in Arnhem, Patton remarkably attacked. He advanced with half the fuel and supplies, a logistical state any rational general would use to justify pausing and consolidating. Patton attacked because his core war philosophy, often stated, was, "A good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week." Speed is the weapon, movement the armor. Stop and you die. Keep moving and the enemy cannot prepare. You create chaos faster than they can react. Keep moving and you win. On September 17th, as Montgomery's paratroopers faced German defenses, Patton's Third Army attacked Nancy, a fortified German position in eastern France, defended by the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division. These were elite German soldiers in prepared positions, not rear echelon troops. Military doctrine, with armor and artillery, would advise extensive preparation, methodical siege, multi-day artillery softening, and a coordinated assault. Patton took Nancy in 3 days. He didn't besiege it methodically. He attacked from 3 directions simultaneously, moving so fast German defenses couldn't cohere. He exploited every gap, and by September 20th, the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division was effectively destroyed. Third Army casualties in Nancy were acceptable. German casualties were catastrophic, with thousands captured. Patton never stopped. Luneville and Château Salines fell. The Moselle, Meurthe, and Mortain rivers were crossed. Each crossing used improvised bridges, infantry, and boats under fire, at an aggressive tempo, making Germans feel they faced a force twice its size. By September 25th, as James Wilcox swam the Rhine escaping Arnhem, Third Army was under 20 miles from the German border near Saarbrücken. They captured 12 fortified cities, crossed 3 major rivers, took 45,000 German prisoners, and inflicted an estimated 55,000 casualties. This was Third Army's total for those 9 days. This was achieved with half the fuel and supplies, no priority, special resources, or grand strategic vision sold to Churchill. It was just Patton and Third Army's relentless, brutal, exhausting speed, aggression, and refusal to ever stop moving. On September 25th morning in London, an aide entered the Westminster War Rooms carrying an urgent market garden eyes only folder. Churchill took it, read the numbers, set his teacup down, and reread them. 10,000 casualties, 2,000 survivors. The Arnhem Bridge remained German-held, the Rhine uncrossed, and all market garden objectives unachieved. He requested fuel allocation reports. He received Montgomery's and Patton's reports side by side. As he compared the columns and did the simple math, something changed in Winston Churchill. Something carefully managed, contained, and suppressed finally broke through. He called General Eisenhower, skipping pleasantries and diplomatic easing into the subject. He asked one question, his voice like a man who had read every casualty report, who has addressed every grieving family, burdened by 5 years of impossible choices, and now rejects poor decisions by politically protected commanders. The simple question, how is this possible? Eisenhower offers no satisfying answer, only explanations and context. Eisenhower cites coalition management, operational complexity, the fog of war, and the difficulty of hindsight on real-time decisions. Churchill listens like a prosecutor to a weak alibi with growing disbelief, then states, "Get me on a plane to France. I want to personally inspect both Montgomery's and Patton's sectors. I'll stand on the ground and see what 10,000 men accomplished, and I want Field Marshal Montgomery to explain it directly." Churchill's arrival in France will shatter the Allied command structure, permanently altering the war's final campaign. His words to Montgomery in an Eindhoven tent, witnessed by generals, will be among the most devastating assessments ever delivered by one military leader to another. Private James Wilcox, recovering in a Rhine field hospital, his arm sutured, will never know his 9 days of impossible courage became the central exhibit in a prosecution about to change everything. In Part 2, Churchill flies to France. Montgomery prepares his defense. George Patton, deep in Lorraine, continues moving 10,000 casualties. 0 bridges captured, 0 strategic objectives achieved. That was Field Marshal Montgomery's cost to the British Empire after 9 days of Operation Market Garden. Meanwhile, George Patton, 200 miles south with half the fuel and no priority, had captured 12 cities, crossed 3 rivers, and taken 45,000 prisoners. Winston Churchill, seeing the numbers, called Eisenhower and requested a plane. On October 1st, 1944, he landed in France, carrying a bound report and a Fury he'd managed for 72 hours. The question was no longer Market Garden's failure, but who would answer for it. That answer was about to be delivered. In an Eindhoven tent, before every senior Allied commander in Northwest Europe, in language no one would ever forget. Churchill arrived at Chafe in Versailles at 8:15 a.m., going straight to the conference room, skipping breakfast and pleasantries, without the usual diplomatic preamble. Eisenhower's staff was assembled. British liaison officers clustered near the windows. American generals sat opposite. The atmosphere was that of a courtroom before the defendant's entry. Eisenhower greeted Churchill at the door. He was careful and measured. As a 2-year coalition manager, he understood the impending events required surgical precision to prevent permanent fracture. "Prime Minister," he began, "the 1st Airborne's courage at Arnhem was extraordinary. Every man performed beyond expectation." Churchill looked at him, then simply said, "Yes, they did, and I intend to find out why that courage was wasted." He walked to the table, setting the bound War Office report down with a thud. He opened to the first page, the comparison chart, 2 columns, 9 days, side by side. He didn't read it aloud. He simply turned it to the room, letting every officer present view it in silence for 15 seconds. 2 columns in 15 seconds revealed Allied command priorities in September 1944. Montgomery, en route from his HQ, was expected within the hour. Churchill quietly set the agenda, a more dangerous sign than his usual outbursts. "Ike," he said, "I need to understand the decision-making behind these columns, not to blame, but to comprehend. In 48 hours, I must explain to Parliament why one general received everything and delivered nothing, while another, with half the resources, won repeatedly. Help me craft that explanation." Eisenhower, choosing his words carefully, said, "Prime Minister, Market Garden's strategic logic was sound. A single thrust through Holland to cross the Rhine could have ended the war in 1944. Intelligence then suggested German resistance in the north was collapsing. Montgomery's bold, ambitious plan had a real chance of success." Churchill nodded. Was German resistance also collapsing in Patton's sector? The 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division defended Nancy. Eisenhower noted it was a first-line formation. Patton destroyed it in 3 days. Churchill paused. With 700 tons of fuel, half of Monty's. "Ike, these aren't rhetorical. I genuinely want to know, what does Patton understand about offensive warfare that Montgomery doesn't?" The room fell silent. Eisenhower had no answer that wouldn't harm Montgomery, a fact both knew. Montgomery arrived at 10 a.m. He entered characteristically, back straight, cap aligned, signaling his refusal to be defensive. He prepared thoroughly, organizing explanations, arguments, and data. He spent 3 days building a case for Market Garden's correctness. It was made under impossible circumstances, undone by unforeseen factors. He sat, nodded to Churchill, and began. "Prime Minister, I'll detail the operational picture on September 16th, the evening before launch. All intelligence indicated German forces in Arnhem were disorganized, depleted, and incapable of sustained resistance. The 9th and 10th SS Panzer Divisions were believed to be in Germany for refitting. The decision to proceed relied on this assessment. Churchill looked at him. "You were warned," he stated. Montgomery paused. "Intelligence was inconclusive. Major Urquhart showed you aerial photos of Tiger tanks near drop zones. Dutch resistance confirmed German armor. Your own intelligence officer called the assessment wrong. You had him removed." "He suffered nervous exhaustion," Montgomery replied. "His judgment was compromised. His photographs were not." Churchill said, "The room held its breath. His photograph showed what happened to those 10,000 men. Dropped onto 2 SS Panzer divisions you were told were there and chose to ignore. So, Bernard, I'll ask you directly, not for Parliament, but for me." Montgomery's jaw was set. "I made a command judgment. The strategic opportunity was real. Risk was calculated. Prime Minister, all war decisions involve risk. You, of all people, understand that." "I understand risk perfectly," Churchill retorted. "What I struggle to understand is the difference between calculated risk and ignoring contradictory evidence for a desired conclusion." He opened the report. "On September 17th, within hours of landing, your airborne forces met 2 SS Panzer divisions. That same day, Patton's troops faced the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier at Nancy. Both commanders confronted elite German armored units. Patton eliminated his in 3 days. Your men, however, defended the Arnhem Bridge for 9 days of fierce combat, then evacuated under cover of darkness across a river. One result stands as a military triumph, the other a military disaster. The distinction, Field Marshal, was not the men's quality, but the caliber of command decisions made pre-engagement." Montgomery remained silent, a first since entering the room. He had no response. Churchill, however, had not concluded, as what followed wasn't further inquiry, but a judgment. He rose, approached the wall map, and traced 2 lines with his finger: Montgomery's advance route in Holland, Patton's through Lorraine. He paused, examining both lines like a doctor studying an X-ray, discerning in the terrain confirmation of a prior diagnosis. "George Patton," he stated, still facing the map, "has revealed a fundamental truth about modern offensive warfare. He's shown that speed, aggression, and continuous movement offer soldiers greater protection than meticulous planning and preparation. His troops incur fewer casualties by moving too swiftly for the enemy to organize an effective response. Each delay, each pause, each consolidation by your army grants the enemy time to entrench, reinforce, and prepare. Patton denies them that time. You afforded them 9 days." He then turned from the map. Montgomery's face paled. Other officers found the middle distance remarkably engaging. "I will recommend this to the combined chiefs of staff," Churchill stated. "General Bradley formally requested increased fuel for Third Army. I support it. The broad front strategy persists. No more single-thrust operations will divert all Allied logistics to one sector. I'll visit General Patton's headquarters this afternoon." Montgomery rose, his voice barely controlled. "Prime Minister, if you deem me unfit for command, I request you state it directly, not by implication." Churchill gazed at him for a moment. "Sit, Bernard." Montgomery complied. "I am not dismissing you," Churchill declared. "The political repercussions of dismissing a British field marshal now are unacceptable to me. But understand this clearly. The 1st Airborne Division's soldiers did not fail. The plan failed. The intelligence assessment failed. The command judgment failed. Those responsible for these judgments must realize the British public knows what occurred at Arnhem. Every family suffering a loss in that bridge too far will question this indefinitely. I will provide honest answers." He shut the report. "One more thing," he added, reading General Bradley's final line from his logistics request almost as an aside. "We're winning a war with our hands tied, while others lose it with both hands free." He met Montgomery's gaze. I believe you understand whom he referred to. He departed. The tent fell utterly silent. Within 72 hours, Third Army's fuel allocation rose. The outcomes were instant and astonishing. Patton didn't await paperwork clearance. He'd anticipated the decision, pre-positioning logistics. By October 4th, Third Army resumed full operational tempo. By October 10th, they'd advanced an additional 40 miles. German units in Lorraine, given 9 days to regroup, were attacked prematurely as Allied resources went to Market Garden. Patton's prediction proved accurate. October's casualty reports showed a stark contrast, mirroring September. Third Army caused about 8 German casualties for each American lost. Montgomery's staff had deemed some units capable of prolonged resistance, yet they disintegrated within 72 hours. Patton's army cut through the German defensive line in Lorraine, which proved less solid than mapped. From his Nancy HQ, Patton noted Bradley's logistics confirmation in his diary with 4 words: "Now we finish." On October 2nd, after confronting Montgomery that morning, Churchill visited Patton's sector. The stark contrast, though numerically predicted, still surprised him. Eindhoven revealed ambition's failure, while Nancy displayed a commander's perfect execution. This commander utilized his own strengths. Liberated cities saw civilians and organized columns of German prisoners. American engineers were already restoring infrastructure. The front line advanced eastward daily, ceaselessly. Patton met Churchill at his Nancy area farmhouse HQ, its walls covered in maps. He wore his renowned lacquered helmet and ivory-handled pistols. This wasn't a performance. It was his usual manner. Churchill inquired, "General, how do you capture so many while losing so few?" Patton, glancing at the map, replied, "I move too quickly for them to kill me, and strike hard enough that surrender is preferable to fighting." It's that simple, Mr. Prime Minister. War isn't complex. People complicate it out of fear. I fear stopping, not war itself. That evening, Churchill noted in his diary, "Visited Patton. He's a force of nature. He makes the ancient art of war appear simple, though it isn't when he performs it. It's genius, masked as aggression." He added, "Monty plans like a lawyer, executes like a clerk. Patton thinks like a warrior, moves like lightning. We've been backing the wrong man." 3 weeks post-Churchill's visit, as Third Army neared the German border and Allied command adjusted to proven realities, a shift occurred. German intelligence, alarmed by changing fuel allocations, concluded if Patton received supplies, he was the threat. Stopping him on the battlefield was impossible, so he had to be halted elsewhere. Early October 1944, Berlin. German Army Group G started a counterintelligence operation against Third Army's supply lines, communications, and Patton himself. In December 1944, Hitler made a crucial decision. This decision led to the ultimate test for Allied commanders, the Battle of the Bulge. It was the largest German offensive since D-Day, a hammer blow through the Ardennes aimed at splitting Allied forces. Montgomery claimed 3 weeks to react. Patton, 48 hours. Only one spoke truly, and the outcome would cost lives with dwindling time. The true war was just starting. Churchill had noted the figures. After confronting Montgomery in Eindhoven and observing Patton's sector, he wrote in his diary that the Allies had supported the wrong man. Third Army's fuel increased. The broad front strategy superseded Montgomery's single thrust plan. Over 6 weeks in October-November 1944, Patton's Third Army gained 100 miles, took 18 cities, and captured 67,000 more prisoners. Meanwhile, Montgomery's forces spent 2 months clearing the Scheldt estuary. Allied command's strategic balance permanently shifted, but Berlin was observing. In December 1944, Hitler responded. This response, Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein, Operation Watch on the Rhine, would brutally test all Allied commanders. At 5 a.m. on December 16, 1944, 200,000 German soldiers, 600 tanks, and 1,900 artillery pieces burst through the Ardennes in Belgium and Luxembourg. The attack hit the weakest Allied point, an 85-mile front held by 4 American divisions, 2 inexperienced, 1 newly arrived from England, which Allied command deemed unlikely to face serious threat. German planners selected this sector due to its weakness, challenging terrain for a major offensive, and a forecast of cloud cover grounding Allied air power for 48 hours. 3 American divisions were destroyed. The 106th Infantry Division lost 2 full regiments, roughly 8,000 men, captured in a single day, the largest American surrender since Patton. German armored columns penetrated 50 miles into Allied lines, forming the massive salient that named the battle, the Bulge at Bastogne, a crucial road junction in the Belgian Ardennes. The 101st Airborne Division, 18,000 American soldiers, found itself surrounded by 5 German divisions with no entry or exit. Supplies dwindled, and ammunition was rationed so strictly that artillery commanders were told to fire only at point-blank range. Temperatures plummeted to -20 degrees Celsius. Soldiers froze in their foxholes. Frostbite casualties escalated alongside combat injuries. The German armored ring tightened hourly. In Versailles, Eisenhower called an urgent commanders' conference on December 19th. The subsequent meeting would determine if the Battle of the Bulge ended in a German or Allied victory. The man who entered with the solution was the same one who had been capturing cities for 3 months on half rations, while others received priority. At Verdun on December 19, 1944, senior Allied commanders gathered in the conference room, examining a map that displayed the full catastrophic extent of the German breakthrough. The mood reflected men confronting a situation deemed impossible, yet it had occurred. Eisenhower opened the meeting, stating, "Gentlemen, we must regard the current situation as an opportunity, not a disaster. Only cheerful faces will be at this conference table," he declared. Patton surveyed the map for about 4 seconds. He had already completed his assessment. He had been performing these calculations since December 16th, 3 days prior, as Patton never waited to be asked. He had already directed his staff to prepare 3 distinct operational plans for a northward pivot of Third Army, contingent on Eisenhower's authorized relief route. The plans were already drafted, and logistics were being pre-positioned. Patton had anticipated this meeting before it was called. Eisenhower looked at him. "George, when can you attack towards Bastogne?" Patton, looking at the map, replied, 48 hours, 3 divisions." Silence filled the room. Several officers exchanged glances. Turning an entire army 90 degrees, shifting hundreds of thousands of men and thousands of vehicles from an eastward to a northward axis in the middle of a European winter within 72 hours, was not described as possible in any military planning manual. It violated every logistical principle, every guideline for large unit redeployment, and all conventional understanding of military capabilities. Montgomery, participating by phone from his northern headquarters, had already submitted his estimate. He would need 3 weeks for a proper counteroffensive, including planning, supply buildup, and preparation. 48 hours, Patton reiterated. "Give me the order now, and 12th Corps will be moving by tomorrow morning." Eisenhower stared at him. "George, if you try to move that fast, you'll create a traffic jam stretching from Arnhem to Paris." "I've already solved that," Patton stated. He reached into his jacket and produced a single folded sheet. The movement orders were pre-written and pre-distributed. His staff had received sealed envelopes that morning, with instructions to open them the moment Patton picked up the phone. He had planned the operation before the meeting to authorize it had even taken place. That was Patton. Eisenhower authorized the attack. Patton picked up the phone. December 20th, 1944, Arnhem, Belgium. At minus 15 degrees Celsius, with ice on every road, the 4th Armored Division moved north at first light. Engines, not fully warmed, coughed and groaned in the frozen air. Road surfaces were sheets of black ice beneath compacted snow. Vehicles slid into ditches, and recovery crews worked ceaselessly, winching tanks back onto the road. Losing 20 minutes here, 40 minutes there, the column never stopped. Engineers toiled through the night, cutting alternate routes through the Ardennes forest. They laid fascines across frozen stream crossings, constructing paths where maps indicated none existed. Patton required roads where there were none. German units defending the Bulge's southern flank were unprepared for the impending assault. Their intelligence indicated Third Army was still oriented east towards the Siegfried Line. The notion that Patton could turn an entire army 90 degrees in 48 hours and strike them from the south was absent from their operational planning. It was absent from everyone's operational planning because it fell outside the parameters of what was considered physically achievable. The 26th Infantry Division advanced on the left, and the 80th Infantry Division advanced on the right. The 4th Armored spearheaded the advance through the center, pushing towards Bastogne. They moved through a gauntlet of German artillery, anti-tank guns dug into frozen ground, and infantry in white winter camouflage, making them nearly invisible against the snow-covered fields. On December 22nd, the German commander in Bastogne issued an ultimatum to Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, leader of the 101st Airborne: surrender or be destroyed. McAuliffe reviewed the message, then paused to consider it with his staff. He penned a single word on paper, giving it to his aide for the German commander: nuts. The 101st maintained its position, holding firm through December 22nd. Their defense continued on December 23rd. That day, after a week, the clouds parted, allowing Allied aircraft to dominate the skies. C-47s delivered 144 tons of ammunition, food, and medical provisions into the Bastogne perimeter in just one afternoon. P-47 Thunderbolts attacked the German armored units encircling the town, leaving destroyed tanks strewn across the snow like discarded toys. Meanwhile, the 4th Armored Division approached from the south, just 20 miles distant. At 1650, on December 26, 1944, the vanguard tank of Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams' 37th Tank Battalion broke through a German barricade in Assenois village, 2 miles south of Bastogne. German foot soldiers dispersed, but the tank commander pressed on without engaging them. Abrams' tanks struck German positions at high speed during the twilight of a winter evening, firing in all directions. They moved so rapidly through the encirclement that German defenders couldn't target or engage them. They continued their relentless advance. By 1650, the initial American tank from the Third Army entered Bastogne, effectively ending the siege. The 101st Airborne had endured for 8 days, encircled by 5 German divisions. Despite heavy losses, they held, and the route was now clear. Upon the relief column's arrival in Bastogne, a 101st Airborne sergeant, having spent 8 days within the perimeter, mounted the lead tank and posed one question to its crew: "Where did you come from?" The tank commander gestured southward. "Patton," the sergeant stated. He gave a single nod, dismounted, and returned to his foxhole. This exchange conveyed everything. The statistics from the Bastogne relief effort were meticulously documented in the Third Army's operational log, reflecting Patton's typical exactitude. Between December 19th and 26th, a span of 7 days, the Third Army had rotated 90 degrees, advanced 3 complete divisions, 100 miles through harsh winter weather, breached 4 German defensive positions, and liberated an encircled garrison. The relief operation resulted in 3,500 German casualties. Concurrently, an estimated 25,000 German soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured, and 324 German tanks were destroyed by the Third Army and Allied air support in the Bulge. The German offensive, which had penetrated 50 miles into Allied territory within its initial 48 hours, was halted. By Christmas Day, the tide had turned. The Bulge was completely eradicated by January 15th. The final significant German offensive on the Western Front had been decisively defeated. Montgomery's northern counteroffensive, initiated on January 3, 1945, as pledged 3 weeks post-German attack, commenced after Patton had already pushed German forces 20 miles back from Bastogne, effectively resolving the strategic emergency. While Montgomery's assault helped seal the Bulge from the north, the conflict's outcome had already been determined in the south within 7 days by an individual who, despite being told the mission was unfeasible, had drafted the orders proactively. Mini-Hook. The stark difference was undeniable. Newspapers throughout Britain and America prominently featured the headline, "Patton relieves Bastogne." Time magazine recognized him as Man of the Year. Correspondence from civilians across the Allied nations poured into Third Army headquarters. A letter from a Birmingham mother, whose son was in the Bastogne perimeter, comprised 2 sentences.
"My son lives, thanks to your general. I don't know his name, but God bless him."
That general was Patton, and by January 1945, every Allied soldier understood the significance of that name. George Patton's Third Army's statistical achievements from August 1944 until the Bastogne relief presented a narrative needing no editorial explanation. 600 miles advanced from Normandy, 300,000 German prisoners captured, and 80 major cities freed. German forces sustained an estimated 500,000 casualties, killed, wounded, and captured. The Third Army's own losses during this time frame totaled 160,000, meaning approximately 1 American was lost for every 3 Germans neutralized in continuous offensive campaigns conducted across some of Western Europe's most challenging landscapes. By any measure of military efficacy, this represented one of the most remarkable achievements in modern military history. German Army Group G, tasked with containing Patton since September, presented an intelligence report to OKW, the German High Command, in January 1945, a document notable for its candor. The evaluation determined Third Army's rapid, adaptable movement rendered standard defensive strategies useless. Before defenses were set, Third Army had already bypassed them. Third Army had annihilated the requesting unit before reinforcements could be called. The evaluation coined a historic phrase: "Against Patton, preparation is useless. Speed is the sole defense, and he consistently outpaces it." Churchill reviewed this German intelligence report in February 1945. After reading it twice, he instructed his personal secretary to file it with the Market Garden Casualty Report, noting their contrast offered a key lesson. Montgomery's last public comment on Operation Market Garden appeared in his 1958 post-war memoirs, where he consistently claimed it was 90% successful. He asserted Arnhem's failure stemmed from uncontrollable intelligence shortcomings, and adequate resupply would have ensured the operation's success, ending the war in 1944. For 80 years, military historians have scrutinized this assertion. The unspoken consensus, evident in the figures Churchill displayed in October 1944, remains unchanged. Yet, what became of the soldiers who suffered from those choices? What became of James Wilcox, the Sheffield welder's apprentice, who, despite a shrapnel wound, crossed the Rhine at night? He endured 9 days that should have been fatal, returning to a nation already debating Market Garden's true failure. What became of the insights from Patton's Third Army, the Anglo-American alliance's most potent offensive unit? With the war's conclusion, generals' return, army demobilization, and historians' work, that narrative reaches its concluding part. This is the untold story for many, spanning from a welder's apprentice parachuting into Arnhem with a dying radio to 10,000 casualties compelling Winston Churchill to fly to France. It ranges from an Eindhoven tent confrontation that fractured Allied command to George Patton, who rotated an entire army 90 degrees in 48 hours to relieve Bastogne. A 3-month operational period had redefined the Western Allied campaign's leadership doctrine. The strategic equilibrium was irrevocably altered. Germany's final offensive was defeated. By April 1945, Third Army advanced so far into Germany that Eisenhower personally ordered Patton to reduce speed, as he was exceeding political agreements on occupation zones. However, Part 3's suspense wasn't about combat. It concerned individuals. What became of the soldiers once fighting ceased? What became of the lessons learned? And what became of the singular truth Churchill grasped in the war room's briefing room on September 25, 1944, as he put down his teacup and re-examined the figures, understanding that wartime success, like all achievements, sometimes carries an unrecorded cost. George Patton never witnessed Germany's occupation transition to a peaceful routine. On December 9, 1945, 4 months post-German surrender, his staff vehicle had a minor, low-speed crash near Mannheim. The collision was slight. All other passengers were unharmed. Patton sustained a fractured neck. Paralyzed from the shoulders, he passed away in his sleep on December 21, 1945, at a Heidelberg military hospital, 12 days following the incident. At 60, he had outlived Rommel, the SS, the Ardennes, the Rhine crossing, and 400 miles of German land. A truck killed him on a peaceful Sunday afternoon. His final diary entry, penned weeks before the crash, included a phrase frequently cited by his biographers: "The world will forget what we accomplished here. They always do. My duty was to proceed regardless." He was interred, as he wished, alongside Third Army soldiers. He was laid to rest at the American Military Cemetery in Ham, Luxembourg. Not in Washington or West Point, but among the 5,076 American soldiers interred there, predominantly those who served under him. He had explicitly requested this, desiring to remain with his troops. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery was granted a viscountcy in 1946, becoming Viscount Montgomery of Alamein. He became Chief of the Imperial General Staff, the British Army's top military post, serving until 1948. In his 1958 memoirs, he continued to assert until his 1976 death that Market Garden achieved 90% success. He never publicly conceded that the fuel allocation data Churchill presented in October 1944 conveyed an undeniable truth. He lived to 88, garnered all possible British honors, and stayed a highly contentious figure in Second World War historical accounts. Sheffield welder's apprentice, Private James Wilcox, returned home in February 1945 after being wounded crossing the Rhine. Resuming work at his factory, he repaired boilers and locomotive parts for 31 years, retiring in 1976. He received standard medals and was never newsworthy, except for one 1969 interview about Arnhem's 25th anniversary, where he was asked. When asked about Market Garden, he paused, then replied, "We did what we were told," holding out longer than expected. He declined to judge commanders' decisions. He added, "I still think daily of those who didn't return." He died in Sheffield in 1989 at 67 with a brief obituary. Yet, the true measure of these men isn't in personal records. Their true impact lies in the strategic legacy of their campaign, studied and replicated globally for 80 years. Patton's 1944 operational philosophy didn't die with him near Mannheim. It became a permanent part of global military academy curriculum. The principle that speed offers protection, a faster force is safer than a fortified one, became foundational to the U.S. Army's air, land battle concept, developed in the 1970s, 80s. This doctrine defined U.S. ground warfare through the Gulf War, Afghanistan, and Iraq, exemplified by Schwarzkopf's 1991 Desert Storm left hook that encircled Iraqi forces in Kuwait. This was a direct doctrinal descendant of Patton's Lorraine campaign. His principles, rapid advance, exploiting gaps, and maintaining momentum, were formalized into doctrine 40 years after his death. Churchill's comparison of Market Garden and Third Army operations became a permanent case study on confirmation bias in military planning. Montgomery proceeded despite intelligence of German armor near Arnhem, as it contradicted his pre-existing committed plan. This is plan continuation bias. Commanders sticking to a plan despite evidence its assumptions are wrong. It's now a standard module in NATO Staff College's military decision-making training. The Arnhem case is used because its lesson is clear, well-documented, and unambiguous. When evidence contradicts the plan, stop and reevaluate. Churchill's October 1944 fuel allocation inquiry permanently changed Allied logistics for the war and shaped NATO logistics doctrine in the Cold War. Eisenhower's broad front strategy, endorsed by Churchill, became the model for coalition warfare. No single commander or advance gets absolute priority. Resources enable multiple simultaneous advances, exploiting success wherever it emerges. This doctrine, codified in the 1950s and refined through NATO exercises, originated directly from Churchill's conference table, not predetermined planning. This occurred in Versailles on October 1, 1944. The story's main lesson wasn't logistics, doctrine, or operational planning, but something military institutions are reluctant to examine. This reluctance is due to discomfort. The lesson shows what happens when institutional politics, not performance, dictate resource allocation. Montgomery received priority not primarily because his plan was superior. Instead, it was because he was British. Churchill needed to show Parliament British commanders led the campaign, and coalition politics required the senior British ground commander to have a chance for decisive victory. These were significant, not trivial considerations. Churchill understood them, and Eisenhower managed them carefully for 2 years. The alliance needed British political commitment. British political commitment necessitated British military prominence. These are the inherent, unavoidable constraints of coalition warfare. Commanders needing coalition cohesion must operate within these constraints. The cost of these constraints was evident in September 1944. For 80 years, historians have debated if Market Garden's failure and cost were justified, or if favoring Patton over Montgomery would have caused greater alliance damage. Churchill's private judgment was clear, but he kept Montgomery in command after Arnhem due to unacceptable political consequences. Even Churchill, understanding the problem, couldn't escape its constraints. This tension between performance and politics, between effective generals and system-favored ones, isn't unique to 1944. This dynamic appears in every institution, military or civilian, across all eras. Market Garden is a relevant case study in many fields because its fundamental dynamic is context-independent. Resources follow institutional support. Results follow operational clarity. These often diverge, and this gap creates catastrophes. Here's a little-known detail. buried in declassified British War Office documents, released in 1995, 50 years after the war, and 6 weeks after his Eindhoven confrontation with Churchill. Montgomery formally requested Eisenhower's headquarters for an independent panel to review Market Garden, with findings distributed to all senior commanders. The stated purpose was to extract lessons. The request was approved, the review conducted, and a 53-page report produced in December 1944, classified, secret, and filed. It wasn't distributed. Eisenhower's Chief of Staff, General Beadle Smith, noted, "Findings accurate. Distribution would damage coalition cohesion. Recommend classification maintained." It remained classified until 1995. Military historians found its conclusions mirrored Churchill's October 1944 remarks. Intelligence was dismissed without adequate justification. Fuel allocation created an operational imbalance, disadvantaging successful commanders for prioritized operations. Comparing it with Third Army showed resource allocation produced worse outcomes. The panel's bureaucratic report echoed Churchill's plain English remarks 6 weeks prior. Montgomery commissioned the review. When it confirmed his suspicions, the system filed it for 50 years. The 53-page report is now available at the National Archives, W0205-1021. You can read it. The executive summary's final sentence, written in December 1944 by Allied staff officers, states, "Future resource allocation should prioritize demonstrated operational effectiveness over strategic preference." This lesson, taking 50 years to declassify and 80 to absorb, cost 10,000 men. From Churchill analyzing numbers in Versailles to Patton turning an army 90 degrees in 48 hours to break a siege, this story is ultimately about one thing. It's the difference between a general who demands everything and delivers nothing, and one who makes do. Patton's Third Army advanced 600 miles, liberated 80 cities, captured 300,000 prisoners, and reshaped Western military doctrine. They achieved this with half the resources, no priority, and a commander who pre-wrote orders. The Arnhem Bridge defenders deserved better decisions. James Wilcox, 30 years later, understood this with unmatched clarity. Wars are won not by generals receiving everything, but by those who make do. Churchill saw this in October 1944. The 53-page report confirmed it in December 1944. Patton proved it daily from August 1944 until his staff car fell silent near Mannheim. If this story shifted your perspective on leadership, resources, or the planning performance gap, comment with your most impactful moment and your location. Many similar stories exist. History turning on one decision, data revealing an unwelcome truth, or one person's persistence changing everything. Subscribe and enable notifications to not miss the next story. The most important ones often take 50 years to declassify.